Welcome to RCR Wireless News. I'm Martha DeGrasse, and I'm here with Ray Butler. Ray is Vice President of Mobility Network Engineering at CommScope. Ray, thank you so much for making the time today.
Hi, Martha. Good to be with you.
Our topic today is infrastructure choices for wireless carriers that help control operating expenses. And this is a big topic for the carrier community, which is trying to satisfy the consumer demand for more and more and more data in the face of intense price wars. So the finances are squeezed a little bit, and companies like yours are helping the carriers out with different infrastructure solutions. So perhaps we can start off with some of the solutions that you see as most important to the carriers in this context.
Well, first off, let's talk about C-RAN. We see the industry moving first to centralized RAN and then in the future on to cloud RAN. So with centralized RAN, we're seeing in some cases for new deployments, for example, of small cells, we see baseband units being centralized or pooled in a central location. That might be in a macro site, or it might be in a separate cabinet enclosure that very likely an outdoor enclosure to help house several of those baseband units. That's an important factor for the operators to be able to drive towards eventually network function virtualization.
Right, and most of those C-RAN deployments are supported by fiber as opposed to microwave backhaul at this time, right?
That's primarily what we're seeing, yes, for C-RAN.
Do you see C-RAN for any other types of network architectures? For example, one tower-based C-RAN supporting macro sites around, or is it primarily for small cells that you see this?
Well, we do see macro sites, as I mentioned, being used as a hub. What we're seeing right now is primarily for new deployments, so those will primarily be small cells, but certainly the architecture applies to the macro sites. And of course, we provide not only the enclosures, but the fiber products that help manage and configure the fiber between those sites.
And do you find carriers focusing on this primarily in metro areas?
Yes, at the moment at least, where the network is most dense and where small cells are needed.
So let's talk a little bit about the types of small cells being deployed. Are these primarily units where the antenna and the radio are separated but both mounted on a pole?
Yeah, so we see kind of three different configurations that I would talk about. One is kind of the 30-foot on a pole, 1 watt to 5 watt micro cell or metro site. Typically, the radio is mounted mid-pole, perhaps 10 feet above the pedestrian access area, or it may be in a cabinet at the base of the pole. And then the antennas typically are going to be mounted up at the top of the pole. So that configuration allows access to the metro site, to the radio equipment, and to the interface points that are needed. We at CommScope provide concealment solutions to help not only protect the equipment, but make it more aesthetically pleasing and make it blend in more with the environment.
So do you find that helpful in speeding up the process of working with municipal authorities to secure a site?
Yeah, it can be very helpful. Municipalities are educating themselves, and it's important to be able to put the best package out there for them. In some cases, the municipality will actually specify the parameters for the enclosure, in which case, of course, meet and comply with those requirements.
Right. So you can get involved from a pretty early stage in the negotiations, I'm guessing.
Right. And some of the larger municipalities have some of the more strict requirements, and of course, as you would expect.
Right. Any municipality success stories that you can share with us, or do you need to keep those confidential?
Yeah, I think at this point I keep them confidential.
We'll keep an eye out for them. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of your ODAS solutions. I know that you're focusing more here on the small cells with the C-RAN, but do you still see some demand for outdoor DAS solutions in the dense metro areas where the carriers really need to increase both coverage and capacity?
Yes, we do. I mean, the ODS has been a popular solution and continues to be, especially where there are multiple operators, multiple carriers sharing a pole, sharing a site. And one of the advantages of the ODS configuration is that you're able to have the actual base station equipment, the base station radio at a remote site, and then bring that signal by fiber out to the pole. And then also the ODS solutions are multi-band, multi-operator, so they're very flexible for the again, for multi-operator and for configuration on the site.
Right, so that's probably something we should point out, that the small cell deployments that you were talking about before are typically just one operator supported, right?
Right.
So there's,
yeah,
go ahead.
In fact, they're going to be, a given radio will today be a single operator, at least in North America. If you're doing the radio at the site, either a radio unit or a micro radio.
A lot of the analysts will talk about the fact that the CRAN architecture offers the opportunity to have a base station area that will support more than one carrier radio. Have you seen that actually happening yet with small cells?
We are seeing it happen. Again, we see it happen with new deployments. We don't see assets or resources being refarmed at this point. But yes, we do see some of it happening.
Okay, great. And how do you, I know that you're not within the carrier organization, but how do you think that the carriers view this type of architecture as a way to more cost effectively provide that needed coverage over a period of time versus, say, building a new tower?
Well, and I really can't speak for my customers. Some of the things that we observe are that putting in a small cell is a lower cost than a big macro site, but it also covers a smaller area. So I expect the small cells to be deployed in very focused areas where there's a clear data demand that's not being met to help meet that demand. I think that there are other solutions also, in addition to small cells, that don't require the addition of a macro site. For example, there's a thing called higher orders of sectorization, where you could convert a 3-sector site to a 6-sector site, or even to a 4 or 5-sector site, splitting a couple of those sectors. And there are cases where that's the most economical way to go. We see that to some small extent in North America. There are other countries outside of the US where that's actually the predominant configuration in the network. So it's another way to densify the network in addition to small cells.
Okay, great. And finally, let's talk a little bit about your indoor small cell business. What are some of the trends that you're seeing there?
Well, definitely a lot of interest in serving the indoor data market. As we know, and as the reports indicate, data demand is primarily indoor, and we expect the growth to also be indoor. So we're seeing a lot of interest in our indoor small cell offering.
How does it play in connection with Wi-Fi for the end user? Do they want to get cellular and Wi-Fi from the same vendor when they can, or do they see those as two completely separate offerings?
It's interesting. Our product, for example, this has a port that you can plug the Wi-Fi access point into, so it makes it completely transparent. You can use the same transport and put the radio port wherever you want. So I think that Wi-Fi is very prevalent, and I think that the successful indoor solution will be one that supports the Wi-Fi and complements it.
Yeah, that would seem to make sense. Okay, great. Ray Butler, Vice President of Mobility Network Engineering at CommScope. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Martha.